This week, Ukrainians had huge success at striking several strategic locations on the Russian territory. Mainly, oil-related infrastructure was targeted. In Orel, a tank with oil products was struck, with a similar site being damaged at Kstovo. The next day, the installation of the heat exchanger block was set on fire at the oil plant in Ryazan. This seriously cripples Russian production of weapons as well as their supply to the front line. An outstanding execution of such difficult operations by the Ukrainian armed forces. Another positive development happened directly with the help of ground forces. Namely, a brigade consisting exclusively of Russian nationals who oppose Putin's regime and fight on the side of Ukraine, called Freedom for Russia, has entered the Russian Belgorod and Kursk regions and captured several small settlements. They called for the Russian population to fight alongside them with the goal of liberating the country from the dictatorship. The brigade declared that it would not be possible to overthrow the criminal regime in the Russian Federation peacefully, stating that it can only be eliminated with weapons in hand. US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan announced an emergency military aid package valued at $300 million for Ukraine.
This is possible because of unanticipated cost savings in contracts that DoD negotiated to replace equipment we've already sent to Ukraine through previous drawdowns.
There is a dire need for the US Congress to finally pass the bill to provide the aid package, still on hold since the summer. After seizing Avdiivka and advancing westward, Russians have recently slowed down. After capturing Stepove and Orlivka, they were stopped by Ukrainian forces and are currently replenishing the active divisions. The Russian grouping currently possesses the required manpower to continue offensive operations shortly and possibly push Ukrainian soldiers even further back. Lack of ammunition and Western aid may also seriously implicate Ukrainian defensive capabilities in the region. It is critical for Ukraine to get essential ammunition supply as soon as possible, otherwise, we may see Russian savages progressing further. Chasiv Yar may very well become the next main target for Russians after their capture of Avdiivka. What makes Chasiv Yar important is its role as a logistical hub for Ukrainian forces in the Bakhmut direction, as well as being a gateway to Konstantinivka. Russia's first target to reach their end goal is to capture Bogdanivka and the road 0506, which would put pressure on Chasiv Yar from the north. Simultaneously, they would need to push through Ivanivske to put similar pressure from the south. Despite already making a series of assault attempts, Russians miserably failed to capture their desired villages. Ukrainians continue to bravely hold the line and thwart the advancing enemy. Another series of drone strikes against Russian oil refineries was conducted by Ukrainian forces. This time, Pervyzavod oil refinery in the Kaluga region was targeted. Footage shows a drone impact and a large explosion at the refinery, which is reportedly the largest petrochemical complex in the region. The results of successful Ukrainian strikes are already seen in the rise of Russian oil prices on the market. The next day, another 3 refineries were struck in the Samara region. The 3 refineries process an estimated 25 million tons of oil per year, or 10% of Russia's annual oil refinement output. Hopefully, in the future, we will only see an increase in the number of such strategically crucial strikes. French President Emmanuel Macron stated in an interview with Ukrainian TV channels that there will be no peace in Europe if Ukraine is forced to capitulate. Macron continues to progressively change his rhetoric and adopts a more resolute approach. Just 2 years ago, he was one of the proponents of peaceful negotiations with Moscow, while today he emerges as a strong supporter of increasing military aid to Ukraine. Macron also stated that perhaps at some point it would be necessary for French troops to operate on the ground in Ukraine to counter Russian forces. Hopefully, Macron's statements will soon convert to a more tangible actions in support of Ukraine. The day of so-called Russian presidential elections, and another rigged victory of the Kremlin dictator. As reported by Russian authorities, Putin won with 87% of the vote. He's already the longest-serving Russian leader since Joseph Stalin and could go on to beat that record. The objective of these elections of portraying the unwavering support by the Russian population for their leader, as well as the invasion in Ukraine, was met. The 3 days of voting were an exercise in pro-Putin mobilization and a test of loyalty for Russia's state apparatus. In conclusion, during this week, Ukrainian forces have eliminated 5,760 personnel, 51 tanks, 123 APCs, 135 artillery systems, 1 MLRS, 131 UAVs of operational tactical level, and 9 anti-aircraft systems.